Hello everyone and welcome to another Total War Warhammer online commentary. In this battle I'm going to be playing the Empire led by Boris Todbringer. And guys, we're going to be facing off against the Wood Elves. So we're going with a bit of a crusade build. I do have 2 Knights of the Blazing Sun, a Bright Wizard, a Witch Hunter, and the Hammer of the Witches. So hopefully you guys enjoy this one. So let's go ahead and take a look at the army compositions and we can go from there. So on the front line, I have almost entirely swordsmen. I believe they're all swordsmen with the Sigmar Sons in the middle. So swordsmen are a decent cheap option against Wood Elves because with their combat stats of having 32 melee attack and 32 melee defense, they actually trade okay with Eternal Guards. On top of that, they do have not silver shields, but bronze shields. So if they're facing off against missiles or you get forced into this really atrocious game where the Wood Elves have you surrounded and they're missiling you down, these guys can usually stay the course. So that's my front line, Sigmar Sons, of course. In the secondary line, I decided to bring 2 crossbows. I'm normally not a big fan of like trading missile fire with the Wood Elves, but in this situation when I have a really aggressive back line of 2 Knights of the Blazing Sun and a Bright Wizard and all these other guys, I figured I would be putting enough pressure on his back line that perhaps I could have the initiative with my crossbowmen. And also there's a nice little synergy. If you guys look at the Flaming Sword of Ruin right here, it does give a 22% missile damage as well. So if you have your crossbowmen kind of bunched up and you want to really give some punch to your missile fire, you can actually cast the Flaming Sword of Ruin. In the back, one group of spears to just protect my missiles. And, again, when you have a really aggressive cav force like this, you don't necessarily need as much backline protection because you're going to be you're going to be the one who knocks. So Boris Todbringer, 2 Knights of the Blazing Sun, who are an awesome cav unit. They really just destroy Wild Riders, pretty aggressively because they have 100 armor and Wild Riders have pretty low AP values. But on top of that, they have 42 weapon strength, a really good charge bonus, and they also do flame attacks. So that synergizes a little bit with the Kindle Flame. So if you look here on the Bright Wizard, he gives all enemy units a 12% vulnerability to the fire damage. So with these guys in the Flaming Sword of Ruin, they're going to be taking a little bit of extra damage. It's not like game breaking, but still it's kind of cool. In the back, I do have a mortar and one group of spears protecting them, and then I also do have the Hammer of the Witches. So the Hammer of the Witches is definitely a fun unit, and the Wood Elves tend to play very atrocious styles of play, and as you can see, he has some troops in the forest here, he has a skirmishing force here, some cav, so I wanted to have something that could kind of force the issue and really just kind of hammer it to him, no pun intended. So the Hammer of the Witches has an anti-large bonus. The armor piercing isn't really necessary, but I figured it would be able to kind of poke him down, and some more spears to protect. So for my opponent, he has definitely a very Wood Elf force over here. He's got 2 groups of Deepwood Scouts with the Swift Shiver Shards, so they have shorter range than regular Deepwood Scouts. They have 135, but they hit pretty much twice as hard. Well, I don't know if it's exactly twice as hard, but I think they fire additional missiles. He does also have the Wardens of Sithril, the Regiment of Renown of the Wildwood Rangers, Armor Sundering, Anti-Large, definitely here to protect these guys against cav, and they have 35 move speed, so I don't think my swordsmen are going to be able to catch them, and I guess the idea is he kites, he runs, and anything that could potentially catch these guys is going to be fended off by the Wardens. So on top of that, he does have the Wild Hunters of Kurnus, so Orion's personal bodyguard. They do provide Guardian, pretty powerful in their own right with 52 melee attack and 39 melee defense. Wild Riders with shields. He does have a Glady here. So what a lot of people do with the Wood Elves when they have this type of a formation is they'll pick a cav fight, right? So he's going to line up over here and, kind of force me into a fight. And, on paper, it looks very advantageous. I'm like, okay, I can get in there. This is going to be easy. But then what they do is they use the Prey of Anathrama. They lock down one of your cav, and then they 2 versus 1 you. So it's a pretty powerful tactic. And, of course, he does have the Dwellers Below. So he's probably going to be able to massacre something of his choosing here. So he does have the this ability as well as Earthblood. So, guys, without further ado, let's get this game a rocking and a rolling. So over here in the forest, he does also have a bunch of Eternal Guards, and it looks like he does have some War Dancers. So that's more of his traditional core. So he's probably going to bait me over into fighting here and then, collapsing my flank over there. So you can see the Hammer of the Witches taking a few initial shots, and I do actually kill, 5 Wild Riders with 1 volley of that. So that's incredibly powerful. So those guys are going to go, scurrying back to the hills from when they came from. Over here, though, you can see my opponent coming in with his Spellsinger, and he's going to drop the Dwellers Below. So unfortunately, guys, this is, pretty much an instant kill on this. The Hammer of the Witches, it actually will break all of the cannons, too. Initially, when he cast it, I was like, oh, well, maybe he's just going to kill some of the crew, and even if there's like 3 crew left, they'll be able to fire, but no, it actually breaks all 3 of the cannons over its full duration. So you can see right here, the cannons just break. So a little bit of a cheesy, they just like glitched and fell down, and that guy just decided to keel over and die there. But nonetheless, the Hammer of the Witches is completely offline. So that was a really rough start for me. Granted, I still have this mortar, and mortars are pretty good at focusing down like light Wood Elf infantry, so I'm going to start shooting it into this crowd. But in the front line, you can see my swordsmen are pushing in, taking a ton of fire from those Swift Shiver Shards. That's totally fine. That's what they're designed for. So now I saw one force coming over here, and another force pressuring me from here. So what you got to do in this situation is essentially you just have to kind of allocate resources. It's a very quick snap decision, so I decided to send these swordsmen up and these ones up as well, engage my crossbows on his bows, and then I send my 3 swordsmen here. So I have the swordsmen here, the Sigmar Sons, I think, yeah, and just a regular group, and also my Witch Hunters going over there. So the trading is going to happen here. So these Deepwood Scouts are going to take a little bit of damage from my crossbows, definitely nice, and this is where the real kind of fight is going to happen. So he uses the Prey of Anathrama, he isolates me. So what I did is I tried to pull back. I wanted to delay the engagement for as long as I possibly could, just to give that time for those nets to wear off. So right now it's about 60% done. Granted, he's going to catch me. So I send Boris Todbringer back in. I try to intercept him and block his charge, but unfortunately I just have to commit here. So we charge in, and we're going to have a very pitched fight. Knights of the Blazing Sun, but it still is like a 2v1 scenario, so the Knights of the Blazing Sun are going to take a ton of shock damage in that 2v1 situation, and you can see my other Knights are still blocked up here, so that was really rough. So they're going to be coming up and around right here, and you can see it's you know, a little bit atrocious for both of us. His Wild Riders of Kernus are taking a lot of damage. Boris Todbringer is doing well, but these Knights of the Blazing Sun are down to 32 models because his Lord is here fighting also, so it's very tough. But this is the turning of the tide. You can see the Knights of the Blazing Sun coming in to smash these wood elves and send them back to the forest. So they're coming in. This Rudolph here is kind of bucking a little bit, but it's probably not going to go well for him. So they're coming in with a little bit of a lance, and this sandwich is going to be devastating. So you can see they're getting sandwiched here. There's 24 models. This one group is pretty much almost entirely broken. 24 here, and let's see what the other one is. Oh, the other one's actually just completely smashed, I think. Didn't he have 2 groups there? But anyways, you can see the Cascading Fire Cloak going down, which gives him 58 melee defense and additional AP damage. Granted, the armor piercing damage doesn't really matter in this situation. He pops an Earthblood right here, but he is just getting sandwiched by this freaking Crusade. You can see these guys with the Flaming Sword of Ruin, which was active, and the Bright Wizard, and also Boris Todbringer is a much stronger combatant than the Glady. So if you really look in the pits, he's kind of bullying the enemy Lord. And you can see the Wild Riders are kind of being sent off to the hill. So I definitely didn't want to target his Lord because he had the Guardian. You can see the Knights of the Blazing Sun coming in again, and I believe another Flaming Sword of Ruin is being cast somewhere on the battlefield. So right here, this is definitely looking very good for me. He is sending his Wardens of Sithril over here to help out, and you can see this Witch Hunter hot in pursuit. He's kind of jogging, looks a little nonchalant, but his Wardens do get a nice kind of rear charge into the back of my forces, and they're going to do some great armor-piercing damage. You can see this this Witch Hunter coming in with a nice, man, that was some solid splash damage. I also do use Accusation on his Lord, and it looks like he is completely broken, so that was definitely turned out to be a good, good fight for me. Over here, my swordsmen are pushing up, and my crossbows traded pretty efficiently with the Deepwood Scouts. Granted, the Deepwood Scouts were focusing on my swords. Over here, some of the spears have been able to hold off these Wood Elf forces, and on the main battlefield, these swordsmen right here, the Sigmar Sons, probably have racked up, only 29 kills, but nonetheless, they've held off War Dancers and, the Winterheart Guards, and this was a big mistake on my opponent's part. He bunched like a lot of troops. So there's 3 full groups of infantry right here. They're just bogged down by 1 swordsman. Right here, it's a 2 for 2, and right here, it's 1 for 1. So just imagine if these forces had ran like up and pass and perhaps had pressured this mortar and, maybe done a little bit of pressure on my crossbows as well. That could have been really strong. But nonetheless, we were both very heavily focused on this battle over here. So that was definitely a bloodbath. So you can see my Witch Hunter right here. He's, he's popping a cap a little bit. It looks like he's actually chasing it. I do cast a fireball right there to try and do some damage. But man, I got some great value out of that blade. Not the Knights of the Blazing Sun, yes, but from the Fire Cloak. The Fire Cloak as well as the Flaming Sword of Ruin. So my forces right now are just kind of riding around and mopping up the last of the Wood Elf missiles, just making sure that everything is secure. And this fight was definitely one part of the battlefield where I was, very heavily outnumbered. So basically, I'm just kind of working my way through, just securing my back line, and then I'll work forward to these guys. Because with this kind of shock damage from, 32 Knights of the Blazing Sun and another 10 here, even though these guys are full health, they're at 72 right now, so another Flaming Sword of Ruin going down, and you guys can see a little bit of Chargeborn coming in. And the Knights of the Blazing Sun are definitely one of the cooler looking units on the Empire roster. So they get in there, and you can see that guy looks like he actually hit the camera, and then he's going to sail up and over the camera. So that's kind of cool. And yeah, they're going to take a lot of shock damage when the second group comes in. So right now they went from 76 models to 56, and that they're just tanking rapidly. Just massive damage coming down from these Knights of the Blazing Sun with 49 weapon strength, and of course getting that Kindle Flame synergy, and the Boris Todbringer himself leading the charge. So right now we're just kind of on cleanup duty. We're going to march over to this other formation. And granted, there are a lot of spears. It's kind of like that scene in Lord of the Rings when they charge downhill to Uruk-hai, halberd formation, and it still goes well for them just because of just how badass they are. So they're getting in there and doing a little damage to these guys. You can see the War Dancers and the other troops are going to hold for a little bit, and the Winterheart Guard are indeed unbreakable. These 45 models right here. So they're going to hold, but still, the War Dancers and the other troops, he actually did pop his melee defense, so very well played with the timing of that, but nonetheless, it doesn't look like he's going to have enough stopping power. So if we look around over here, you can see my mortar is still shooting off. A lot of his War Dancers are pushing in, but my crossbows are able to pepper them down. And I did have some swordsmen and some spears and auxiliary. And you can see the Hammer of the Witch's crew. These guys have just been chilling all game. They're just looking in the other direction. They're like, we're sick of this shit. We already got attacked by vines from the earth. That wasn't fun. So the Witch Hunter, I didn't get a chance to really show you guys what he was doing this game, but he actually did some good work. I was able to poke down the enemy Lord with Accusation once or twice. And, he helped a little bit in the melee fight. I haven't racked up, 16 kills, not bad. So over here you can see the Winterheart Guards are pretty much all that's left. So I'm going to fast forward for you guys because I think it literally just took me like the rest of this minute to kill those guys. But yeah, guys, just wanted to show you this replay. I thought it'd be cool to show you guys that the Crusade is still alive and well. And Lore of Fire can be pretty strong. The Flaming Sword Rune gives you a huge burst of damage, and also the Kindle Flame synergy is pretty cool, and the Cascading Fire Cloak isn't bad either. Like, even in a matchup where you don't really need AP, it still does give you a lot of melee defense for a very cheap value. So in a cav fight like that, you can give your Knights of the Blazing Sun, whose main weakness is their melee defense and their weak defensive stats, the melee defense they need, and they're really, really going to be able to just outclass a Wood Elf cav. But yeah, I liked his initial strategy of the Deepwood Scouts. That Vanguard was pretty powerful, and definitely like splitting my forces. It's a very stressful thing to go through, like having to allocate certain swordsmen over to one side and allocate some to the other, and it's a snap decision you have to make. And it definitely favors the Wood Elves because they have that mobility, they have really good missile pressure and different things like that. I think shutting down the Hammer of the Witches was the right play there. That was pretty good because then I could have just sat back and killed his Wild Riders and forced him into a really bad engagement. Granted, having that Dweller's Blow on all my Knights of the Blazing Sun and Boris would have been really powerful as well. So it's hard to say for sure, but man, that ability is incredibly strong. Anyways, really well played to my opponent, Christo FF. Look forward to seeing you again on the ladder, and hopefully you guys enjoyed that Boris, Witch Hunter, and Bright Wizard build. Have an excellent night, guys, and take care.